Okay, so this video is going to be a critical review of the new HANGAR SHOWDOwn game mode, given the information that I've gathered over the past 24 hours or so. My goal is to fairly provide critical feedback based on what I think most of us are all thinking. So I'm going to separate this into three major parts. The first part is just the general mode overview. Going into the mode, just a HANGAR view, reading the way that it works, seeing everything that's there. I think the first and most obvious complaint that people have is that there's no A-coins anywhere on the reward path, and it's been a long time since there's been any meaningful increase to the amount of A-coins that players earn on a regular basis. There's some A-coins thrown in promo codes or whatever, but those are very erratic and not reliable, and a new mode with its own unique rewards, I think, should be expected to provide A-coins to some degree. Now, on the flip side, what it does provide is mod parts, which is something else that we've been very much needing ever since they came out. The only other way to get mod parts is from weekly tasks, and having this as a very cheap and easy way to get mod parts is a very good step in the right direction. I very much enjoy, especially the amount. I think the amount of mod parts given in this mode is fairly generous, and it does not cost very much. But that does bring me to the fact that it does cost. It does cost A-coins, of all things, the thing that there should have been more of, but instead they're taking away A-coins. So I think charging A-coins to be able to play this mode more than 5 times is very sad to see. I don't like to see it. Now, in all fairness, when it comes to strictly the value of mod parts versus the value of A-coins, you're spending maybe 100 A-coins and you're getting 100 elite mod parts, and that's really good. It's a very good conversion rate. It's a very cheap way to get elite mod parts. However, I do think that it's unfortunate still that the only players that can get elite mod parts for free at all are the players in League 1. In League 2, you have to spend A-coins. You have to play at least 3 extra battles just because 115 base points is the absolute most that you can get in a single battle. Given the number of battles and the battle multipliers that apply to each league, it's not physically possible for League 2 players to get elite mod parts for free from this mode, and that's sad to see. League 3 players have it even worse. I'm not sure that it's even possible for them to get elite mod parts. League 2 players can't get the second batch of elite mod parts. They can get the first one if they play at least 3 extra battles, but League 3 players probably can't get them at all, and I'm not a big fan of that. I do think having it cost players to play the mode any more than 5 times is not something that I appreciate personally. Plarium wouldn't be the first to do it, so it's not the sort of thing that I'm going to claim as completely unacceptable, but I do think that charging a premium currency like A-coins is not a good idea. Some people suggested that it cost golden tournament tickets or something like that, and I think that's fair. I don't think that it should cost much, if anything, to be able to play extra times. And it's still fairly difficult to get all of the rewards. Even if you do play all 10 times, it's still fairly difficult for League 1 players to get every single reward unless they win every single match. So there is that. But moving past the general overview of the mode, let's go into the mode balance. The matchmaking specifically. It does happen, and it's not infrequent. It does very often happen where League 1 players, for example, are pit up against League 2 players. And I think that is completely unacceptable, and I think that that is completely non-negotiable. That should never happen, and there are 0 exceptions. I believe that that is completely unacceptable. Different leagues allow different things. League 1 players are allowed to use mods while League 2 players are not. It is completely objectively unfair to pit those 2 leagues against each other in the same match. And it shouldn't be a matter of whether or not you can find players. There is an 80-second match wait time to guarantee that you get as many players as possible. There should be no cheaping out. There should be no corners cut in terms of how you match people together. There's an incredibly long wait time. People are playing this mode a lot. In fact, if you want people to continue playing this mode a lot, you should allow them to play more battles for free, and that would also help your matchmaking issue. But there is an excessively long wait time just for this reason, simply to guarantee that the matches are as likely as possible to be full PvP battles and to be as fair as possible. Nobody's going to want to wait 80 seconds just to have an unfair match. That's completely ridiculous, especially when the matchmaking makes such a big difference. They cannot play any more than 5 times for free, and so if they're getting screwed over because their enemies have maxed mods, it's not just that they have mods, they have maxed mods because that's the way that the game works. That's the way that the mode works. Anything that they have is automatically maxed out. And in a lot of cases, it's entirely unrealistic to even say that some of these people even have a reasonable chance of winning some of these battles against League One players. And so I think that is a hard stop, completely non-negotiable. At no point ever should a League 2 player be put up against a League 1 player, simply because of the way that the league system works and the things that the leagues allow. Now, inside the leagues themselves, the matchmaking is also very messed up, and I'll give you a perfect example as to why. Let's take League 1, for example. League 1 is 24 mech stars or higher. One very easy and simple way to have over 24 mech stars in your hangar is to have 5 mechs that are all rank 5. The problem with this is that if you are then saying that this person belongs in League 1, all of their mechs are rank 5, they don't even have access to mods until rank 6. Putting them in the same matches is incredibly unfair. I think that League 1 should be reserved for 28 tier stars at least, because then you would have 3 mechs that are rank 6 and 2 that are rank 5, and that is the absolute minimum. Because here's the thing, the difference between a rank 5 mech and a maxed mech does not just stop at mods, it also has to do with energy capacity. A rank 5 medium mech has 18 energy capacity, whereas a maxed medium mech has 24. So not only do these maxed players have maxed mods, whereas these rank 5 players don't even have access to mods, these maxed players also have 33% more firepower in the form of 33% more energy capacity. And a way to get around this energy capacity issue, to be fair, could be simply to provide a certain damage percent buff to each mech according to however much energy they're not spending on a maxed version of that mech. Because you're maxing out the mech and you're maxing out the weapon, but you're not accounting for the lost energy. So you could account for the lost energy by simply providing a 50% damage buff to rank 4 mechs, a 33% damage buff to rank 5 mechs, and so on. But even still, that's not even addressing the issue with mods, and this is why I think especially League 1, where you have mods alongside that, if we're going to continue to accept this ridiculous fact that for whatever reason mods are only acceptable to use on rank 6 mechs, then I think there should be almost no scenario in which a person could happen to be in League 1 fighting mods without mods of their own, unless it's their own personal choice, like they took them off or something. And this is the issue that most people have. A lot of people have very big problems with the fact that they are fighting enemies in League 1 if they are in League 2 or even League 3, I've heard. But then on top of that, even if you are in League 1 and everybody has access to mods, there are some players who just have a significant disadvantage simply because of the energy difference. And so I think that the matchmaking needs to be severely improved. Once again, if it is a matter of there aren't enough players to make the matchmaking that good, then don't freaking limit the battles to 5 free battles per day for everybody. Make it more than 5, make it 10, make it 15, make people grind for twice as long for the same thing. Honestly, I don't care. I think people would prefer that, because even if this mode was something that they absolutely loved, they can't play it any more than 10 times. And that brings us to the third major point, which is the mode replacement. This mode, which you physically cannot play more than 10 times, you can't play it any more than 5 times for free, is in the game replacing 2v2 that a lot of people would regularly play. Now, maybe not a very large percent of people played the regular 2v2 or the regular 5v5. There's definitely some people who only played those modes. Obviously, Plarium's the one that has the numbers on that, so I'm not going to make any ridiculous claims about what percentage of players played 2v2 on a regular basis, but ultimately it takes away from the options that players have. And what's more is that even though the new mode is supposed to be very team-oriented, you can't even invite a friend to play it with you. You have to play it with randoms, which takes away from the communication and coordination that especially experienced players tend to prefer to have. And so at very least, and especially catering toward the desires of the late game competitive community who very much enjoys playing 2v2 and 5v5 custom matches, I'd say at very least those 2 modes should be added to custom battles, if nothing else. While you're at it, you may as well add free-for-all, but Hangar Showdown, Control Point Clash, along with whatever mode happens to be in the tournament that week. There are 3 different options, 4 different potential game modes, and that itself is not the absolute worst. But I think if people really want to be able to play 2v2 in a custom match, or even the new Hangar Showdown in a custom match, they should be able to do that. And the fact that they can't is very much hurting the competitive scene, I would say. Because once again, even if Control Point Clash is the fan favorite mode, which I think for most people it is, for most people, they mostly play Control Point Clash, and that's fine. But even if it is the fan favorite mode, does not mean that the other modes don't get played or that players don't want to have the option to play those other modes. And so yeah, those 3 major points that I made, I think that pretty much summarizes what everybody kind of thinks about the mode. There are some things that people like about it, there are some things that people dislike about it. I think the major upside is that you can get a crapload more mod parts for very cheap, if not for free, and that's very nice. Apart from that, there's some smaller issues, but there's several major issues as well, specifically with the matchmaking and the fact that you can't play these custom battles even if you wanted to. But yeah, anybody in the comments, if you guys have any other things that you want to point out, any other points to make, then feel free to mention it. Of course, I would encourage you to make it constructive. The goal is to help direct Plarium in a better direction rather than just insulting them and complaining about stuff without offering any possible solutions. But more than that, I encourage everybody to express your dissatisfaction to Plarium specifically, whether it's in Plarium support or in Discord or wherever it is that you feel would make a difference. My comments section isn't going to help you. They're not going to read my comments. Of course, I'm sharing my feedback in the way that I do best, but I am just one person, so they don't really listen to me. So I would encourage you to provide, formal feedback in the general feedback areas. But otherwise, yeah, that'll be it for me. Take care.